untangle this cord so I can take this over there.
Oop, okay. All right, so you hit your record, did you, Bethany?
I did, so we're ready whenever you are.
Okay, I am ready. We'll call the meeting to order. I'm Matt Brower, Chair of the State Committee. We'll introduce the voting members. So here with Scott.
Scott Ryan, voting member.
Darren, are you on? Yep, there you are.
Yep, I'm on. Darren Hickling, Vice Chair, voting member.
Maureen
Loophole, voting member.
and Megan. Okay, Megan.
Yeah, not available today.
Okay, all righty. Now let Bethany, then we'll do the rest of the roll call.
Thank you very much, Matt. First we'll go around the room in Albany and then Syracuse, and then we'll do folks on the line. So if you want to start with, is that Brian next to you?
Sure. Brian Steinmiller, Assistant Director, Division of Land and Water Resources for Ag and Markets.
Ben Luskin, Regional Field Staff for the North Country Capital Region area.
Melissa Gordon, Administrative Assistant.
Travis Ferry, Regional Field Staff for Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island.
Yep, Tim Clark, Engineer.
Jennifer Clifford, CRF Program Manager.
Jason Coquinos, Ag Non-Point Source Program Manager.
Okay, and I'm Bethany Bistu, Executive Director of the New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee.
Good morning, Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA for the State Committee.
Okay, and we'll move to our advisory members who are joining us virtually. Do we have anyone from Cornell Cooperative Extension?
This is Kitty O'Neill, Climate Resilience Specialist with Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Morning. How about Cornell CALS? Joseph, are you able to unmute and introduce yourself? Well, I see that you're on, so welcome. Thanks for joining. Do we have anyone from CDEA?
Good morning, everyone. Jessica Armstrong, Oneida County and CDEA President.
Good morning. DEC.
Hi, everyone. Tony Prestigiacomo, Research Scientist, DEC Division of Water.
Good morning. Department of Health. Okay. Department of State.
Morning, Pete Zimmer, Department of State.
Good morning. SUNY ESF.
Morning, Christine Georgigako, SUNY ESF.
Good morning, Christine. And do we have anyone on from NRCS?
Good morning. Elena Covington, Assistant State Conservationist for Partnerships, NRCS.
Good morning, Elena. And I think I saw that Morgan Tarbell just joined from DOH.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bethany.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good morning. So then I'll do a quick roll call of the state committee staff who are joining or maybe joining online. Victor DiGiacomo.
Good morning, Victor Giacomo, Regional Field Staff for the West.
Chastity Miller.
Good morning, everybody. Chaz Miller, the AEM Base Coordinator for State Committee.
Ron Bush. Brendan Jordan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Brendan Jordan, AEM specialist with the state committee.
Tim Sheldon?
Tim's in another meeting. He'll be down shortly.
Okay, thank you. And Tyler Knapp? He may have had a sick kid this morning, so may not be joining. And I want to say a very big welcome to our newest staff member who has joined our state committee staff team, Lauren Stoddard. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Marin. I am the data and environmental modeling specialist. I'm really happy to be here and I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody and working with you all. So thank you.
Likewise, Marin, thank you. Have I missed any advisory members or state committee staff members? Okay, before we move on, also want to say a very warm welcome to all of our Soil and Water Conservation District folks, whether you are a board member or staff person. Thank you for joining our meeting today. And if you are available or able to, please enter your name and your affiliation into the chat. I think we're good, Matt.
Okay, then we'll go to the review and approval of minutes. Is there any questions or discussion concerning the minutes? If not,
Really quick, I just want to note, I think in the version of the minutes that I sent out, it did not include the slide deck from Jenny Whiteman regarding her presentation. And if anybody wants that, I can send that separately, but it made the document very, very long. So probably the version folks sent, or the version I sent to folks didn't have that. So I did want to make note of that.
okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion? If not, motion to approve.
I'll make motion.
Okay, second would be Darren. And we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan? Oh, Megan's not here. Maureen?
Aye.
Catch her off my list here. All right, very good. Motion is approved. We're up to the correspondence and budget update and staff update with Bethany and Brian.
All right, so I will kick things off. We don't have any official correspondence to share with the state committee today, but I do want to give an update because we were working on an Envirothon donation, and I think at our last meeting, we hadn't heard back yet, but that increased donation was approved, and I believe Melissa has processed that. So on behalf of the state committee, we were able to donate $5,000 to the New York State Envirothon for future competitions. I also want to give folks a very brief budget update. So since the last time we met, New York State has passed a budget. That happened late in May, I believe on May 28th. So with the passage of the budget, there also, that included the Environmental Protection Fund, which is the portion of the state budget that supports most of the state committee programs that we administer to soil and water conservation districts. So overall this year, the Environmental Protection Fund remains at $425 million. It was also funded at this level in last fiscal year. And I want to provide just a few points to note, from the budget. Soil and water conservation districts, before I go through them, I want to mention that soil and water conservation districts and our voting members did receive a full breakdown of the Environmental Protection Fund That included this year's appropriations as well as last year's, just to give you an idea on where things are at funding level wise. So for fiscal year 2027, just a couple of highlights from the Environmental Protection Fund. I want to acknowledge that the Regenerate New York program, which is administered by New York State DEC, but something that I think districts are interested in, that received $500,000, which is level with what was received last year. The Climate Resilient Farming line of the EPF received $20.5 million, which is a $1 million increase from what we received in fiscal year 2026. However, there are 2 additional sub-allocations from that line, which when those are factored in, does decrease what we have available for the Climate Resilient Farming program. However, Jennifer will talk a little bit later in the meeting about some potential funding options that we might have to support round 10 of the CRF program. The agricultural non-point source pollution control projects line of the EPF, which supports our ag non-point source program, as well as our game-based program, received a $200,000 increase from $18.5 million to $18.7 million. The Finger Lakes Lake Ontario Watershed Protection Alliance, which is a watershed coalition that many of our soil and water conservation districts in the state are part of, received $4 million, which is a $500,000 increase. And the Lake Erie Watershed Protection Alliance received $250,000. The Water Quality Improvement Program line of the budget received $28 million, which is an increase of $2.7 million over what was appropriated for fiscal year 2026. The Ocean and Great Lakes Initiative line of the Environmental Protection Fund is something that we are able to utilize, and we do utilize for our ecosystem-based management program. And all of the funding that we use through those different offerings comes from the Ocean and Great Lakes line. The total appropriation for fiscal year 27, that particular line was $26 million, and that was a $1.4 million increase over 2026. And the last highlight from the budget that I want to mention is the Soil and Water Conservation District line, which is the line of the EPF that supports our state aid to districts program. This year, for fiscal year 2027, that line received $19 million, which represents a $1 million increase. We've been discussing this budget at our recent regional managers meetings that have happened over the past couple weeks, and wanted to share out that what that increase might mean for districts. So if districts, through the state aid program, are able to receive the full Part A reimbursement, Part B conservation project funding, and if they're able to meet all performance measures, they could receive approximately $323,000, which is a low estimate because oftentimes we have additional funds that we can kind of roll in, split between participating districts, but that's just shy of a $20,000 increase from what districts received last year for that program. Any questions on the budget? Hearing none, I will pass it over to you, Brian, for the staff update.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Bethany. Well, I was going to start off as well by welcoming Maren Stoddard to our staff. Maren joined our staff on May 21st, has already hit the ground running, looking at all things program data and management, GIS, taking over a position that Tyler Knapp had vacated when he took a new position. Tyler and Maren are still working very closely together on these efforts, but I'm just so happy and pleased to welcome Maren Stoddard to our staff, and also happy to report that we wrapped up interviews for the ecosystem-based management program manager position, and as Bethany mentioned just a bit ago with the budget, that is a program that is funded out of the Oceans and Great Lakes line item, which did receive a bump in this year's budget. And we have been successful in being able to secure funding through that line item to do lots of really great projects and programming, pilot programming, and also filling gaps that other programs leave behind. With that being said, this is a position that Lauren Brzezowski, who had worked half-time, she retired. We were able to backfill that position very quickly. And by the next state committee meeting, sure we'll have more to say on who the new program manager will be. With that being said, it will return to a full-time staff position. And we really are looking to bring EBM more into the state committee fold, more consistent offering, maybe a little bit more robust in what we can offer, and seeking out feedback from districts in this group on an annual basis. So excited to report that that recruitment is moving forward, and we'll have more to report at the next meeting. Also, since our last meeting, we received approval to solicit for a district aid operations and outreach specialist. This position has been on our wish list for many years as the district aid program has grown, and there's just so much information that comes in with that. There's a real, very fast-paced, get things, get all the reports analyzed and claim for payments processed towards the end of each fiscal year. But there's a whole host of things we could do with this program throughout the year. But most importantly, or I should say as equally important, is our ability to also have somebody focus on operational issues, working with our regional staff under Bethany's direction, and also assisting with outreach efforts. We've had really great success in past years where our district aid program manager, or that person who was assigned to that program, has also been very instrumental in the annual report and all things outreach. So we're really trying to combine this program management position with those elements as well. We just approved the job announcement for that yesterday with Human Resources. So I would expect to see that even today, certainly by the end of this week. These are tight turnarounds, so we'll also send that solicitation out to districts for their information, and it should run, I think, through the 4th of July holiday. So with that being said, we'll be reviewing resumes and doing interviews, and I would say probably by our September meeting we'll have more to say about that, skipping our August meetings, of course. So that really should round out the staff plan for the committee, and right now for the technical and program staff of the entire division. And probably won't be many years before we're all fully staffed up, and then we'll have more retirements coming up. So we'll be mindful of all of that too. But I just want to extend a huge debt of gratitude to this department for their support of the division and being able to receive approval for positions, to be able to fund those positions and fill those positions. But also Human Resources is just doing a ton of work on recruitment within this agency, and it really has been an absolute pleasure working with everybody in Human Resources to make this happen. So more to come next month's meeting and in September's meeting. So yeah, things are moving forward with the staffing plan. Bethany, am I leaving anything behind that you wanted me to cover?
No, Thank you very much. Any
Okay.
questions from anybody?
Well, yeah, the support from the department and human resources has been great, and I think one of the keys to the whole thing too still is that the fact that the districts get things done and they make things happen in the field, which I think makes the department want to support them more.
Sure.
Is my take on it, and so thanks to the districts as well for their efforts, because it keeps the ball rolling. So with that, I think we'll move on to the reports for the voting members and advisory members. I'll start off. I went to the Envirothon and helped to judge the oral presentations by the 3 finalist teams, and really impressed. They did a great job. For high school kids, I thought their ability to speak in front of a fairly large crowd was they were well prepared, and good information. A lot of work went into it, I'm sure, and so that was kind of fun, and then it was also very interesting. And the other thing I wanted to report is hopefully by this time next month, maybe, Fulton County Soil and Water Conservation District will be moved into their new office building. And if John's on the line and I'm wrong, he can correct me, but I think we're pretty close, so we're looking forward to that. So
Host a state committee meeting there sometime?
Could be.
All right.
Could be. I got to see how big the the conference room is when we get the furniture in there. Make sure we still got room. But it really looks nice. The contractor that did the work did an excellent job, and really nice. So, Scott?
All right, the NYCD annual meeting will be held Monday, October 26th and Tuesday, October 27th at the Hampton Inn in Penn Yan. If anybody has any ideas for sessions, let Blanche know about that. The Delaware Association of Conservation Districts is hosting the 2026 National NACD Regional Meeting on August 24th through the 27th in Wilmington. And our next board meeting is next Wednesday, the 24th at 7 o'clock via Zoom.
All right, thank you. Darren?
I have much to report at this time.
Okay. And Maureen?
Hi, everybody. I want to say thank you again to our committee for the donation to the Envirothon. That's actually where I was last month. I was at the Monroe County's testing day. It's always wonderful to see all the young folks that are, out there trying to learn about these things. We had, well, I'm getting some information here. Sorry, right there. Okay, we had 23 teams, which turned out to be 112 students that were competing in our county, so it's pretty thrilling to see all of that. I also want to mention that I went to the Region 2 managers meeting. PJ had hosted that one. It was nice to get out of my region and see what's going on elsewhere. It's always great to hear what other soil and water districts are doing, and you come back with quite a few ideas. As far as my Owaka Creek Watershed Committee, it's just a group of volunteers. We run on donations, but we attended the Caledonia Trout Festival again this year, which if you're ever in our area, first weekend in June, you should come to it. It's really all based on fishing. There's all sorts of demonstrations and speakers and vendors, but my group puts out a table of macroinvertebrates that we pull out from Owaka Creek, and it's a real hit with the kids and their parents to see things. Of course, crayfish is always the most important one. Another thing, we had worked with management plans years back, Owaka Creek Watershed Committee, along with the Black Creek Watershed Coalition. That coalition kind of faded out as people aged out, but there is a meeting tonight that is trying to get that group back together. And it would be kind of nice to see that happen again, because I think we made some impacts with the work that we had done together in the past. And that's about it.
Right, thank you, Maureen. Next, let's see, you're gonna run through the advisory members, Brittany, Bethany?
Sure, I can do that. Okay, advisory member reports. We have a report from Ag and Markets.
Bethany, I think my staff report should do it for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dan from CCE.
Nothing from CCE. I think so Joe has some soil health that we can update folks on.
Well, then we'll move to Cornell Pals.
Hey everyone, it's wonderful to be here. Figuring out my audio earlier, so that's why I didn't do the roll call. But we're full in swing with the Soil Health Field Day series, which will start next Thursday up in Jefferson County. So we'll have an updated map, I think, any day, and doing some good job with press releases through Morning Ag Clips and other places. But yeah, we have a lot of events across the state, so I hope to see folks at one. A lot of soil water folks, Jason, Curtis, and Paul Gier and others, and have been really involved with this. But we have events happening in Jefferson County, Cattaraugus, Suffolk County, Oneida County, Tompkins, Kings County, Albany, Seneca, Yates, Madison, Monroe. So something for everyone. So hope to see folks there, and yeah, we'll use your help with spreading the word about these events.
Very good. Thank you very much, Joseph. CDEA.
Hi, everyone. Not too much to report. One thing I did want to point out is we do have a newly appointed Division 5 representative. That is Katie Wakovitz from Hamilton County Soil and Water. We also have a couple of meetings coming up. Next Tuesday, the 23rd, we are having our CDEA meeting. It is going to be held up in Division 3, but it also will be hosted via Zoom. The division reps should have sent out that meeting information. We also are having our kickoff legislative committee meeting June 24th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. If anyone is interested in that meeting, please reach out to myself, Dustin Lewis, or Caitlin Stewart. And then we also have our August CDEA meeting on August 27th, held virtually or at my office in Oneida County. That is it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jessica. And I do want to recognize that I received your written report, so we will also append that to the minutes. DEC.
Thanks, Bethany. Just a couple of things, and I'll paste them in the chat so people have access to it. Reminder that the CFA is open, Water Quality Improvement Project grant specifically for DEC, and the CFA open period closes July 31st. So keep an eye out for opportunities there. The Harmful Algal Bloom Research Grant Program is now open. It relies on DEC's HABs roadmap and research guide to understand HABs and implement practices to reduce HABs impacts to recreation and health across New York State. The NIHABs program, the public-facing reporting mechanism for harmful algal blooms in New York, is now open, with blooms being reported across New York. And finally, on my staff here in the Syracuse office, I've hired a new research scientist 3 who will be starting in July. That person will have some responsibilities in the Finger Lakes and Allegheny watershed programs, in addition to some other statewide planning efforts. But that's all I have, and I'll paste it in the chat for the links so people can grab them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Department of Health.
Good morning, everyone. Nothing to report from DOH at this time.
Right. Department of State.
Just a couple CFA kind of reminders. DEC made me think of that. Our Environmental Bond Act applications are due June 26th at 4 p.m. That's a bit outside the normal CFA deadline. My program, the LWRP, applications are due within the normal CFA window, due July 31st as well. And I think that's it for Department of State. Thanks.
Thank you. SUNY ESF.
Nothing to report at this time, thanks.
And NRCS.
Mine is brief, but as of last Friday, Colton Buckley, our new NRCS chief, announced our newest motto, and we have 7 new priorities as well. Our new motto is keeping working lands and working hands. And I'm also putting a link to the page in the chat where you can find the 7 priorities: preserve and protect agricultural land, shift to outcome-based conservation and farmer empowerment, recenter field engagement and strengthen technical expertise, expand wildlife conservation and outdoor access, strengthen partnerships by streamlining processes and accountability, optimize mission delivery by strengthening workforce culture, and modernize NRCS infrastructure and technology. At the very bottom of the page, that's where you get the 1-pager, which is a nice handout. And it goes in a little more in depth into what each priority and goal actually entails. And that's really all I have.
Thanks, Elena. I know it's relatively new that it just came out, but do you know if the, you said the one priority that focused on partnerships and streamlining that process, do you think, or can you foresee that impacting like the contribution or cooperative agreement structure?
I do. One of the main focal points is we're really concentrating on boots on the ground agreements specifically. If it's an agreement that involves a local soil and water conservation district or one of our partners, of course, that assists with Farmers First, which is kind of one of our underlying priorities from our previous chief. Yeah, we have seen a greater push for those types of agreements being more desirable. Anything to do with conferences is not going to happen 9 times out of 10. So that's been a major shift. So we definitely still want to work with our partners, but we're prioritizing any agreements that focus on boots on the ground specifically. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for that report. And I don't believe, I think we've covered all of the advisory members in that, so I think we can move on.
Okay. We are up to the agricultural non-point source pollution abatement and control program with Jason.
Okay. So I have no amendments for this board's consideration today. This is nice. I'll go into our program status update, which there hasn't been a whole lot of movement in this time of the year in the program. We have a lot of things under review, but I'll just run through our numbers. In current rounds, we have 150 completed, 23 canceled, 130 active contracts, 1 still pending round 30 contract. However, that has moved forward a little bit since last time. We did get signatures from the Conservation District. Now it's moving on to other partner signatures in the Comptroller Department and Attorney General. In terms of what's actually happening with closeouts, we have 7 contracts under review. Per our new policy, we are waiting on an interest check from 1. We are waiting on a return funds check from another. We need an adjusted claim for payment on a 3rd. 2 are approved, but are just pending myself writing a closeout letter. So thank you for those. and 2 more are under review, and 1 of them is a cancellation. Here are just my graphics and breakdown of this. So again, not much change from last month, just the time of the year that we're in, I believe. In terms of our timeline, I did want to highlight where we are in the current round. So scoring is underway, and our due date for round 31 scores is going to be next Friday, June 26th. I have touched base with all reviewers, and they're okay with this due date. And again, every reviewer on the line, thanks for all your work and help scoring round 31. And we did schedule a post-review meeting for Monday, July 6th to discuss widely disparate scores and to give a breakdown of the round from the reviewer's perspective. So that'll give us a week to put together a ranked list for this board to consider at the July State Committee meeting. Expect awards and non-award letters to come out in August. We will submit a procurement record at that time and setting us up for contracts in the fall. So we're right on schedule, and just thanks for everyone's participation at this time. Questions from committee members?
I just want to highlight what that goes into the post-review meeting to getting the list ready for the state committee in 1 week's time. That's no small undertaking, having done that for a few years myself. So hats off to you, Jason, and to all of the reviewers, for their time and expertise as well.
Definitely. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions or comments? We will move on to Climate Resilient Farming Program with Jennifer.
Okay, so I don't have any amendments this month. And just a quick recap of things before we talk about round 10 later on the agenda. So the CRF program is focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions on farms, increasing carbon sequestration on agricultural lands, and preparing farms for a changing climate by making farms more resilient. The dashboard hasn't changed since last meeting. About 5 closeouts are in process of review, but nothing much moves during blackout kind of period. It's kind of quiet. So that's really the end. Round 9, I'll let you know. So we are waiting approval from OSC on the procurement record before we can move forward with contracts. So that's why those are just pending. Those projects have been awarded, but nothing has gone to contract. Plans of work have mostly all been approved. Some are still in process. So that's where round 9 is. And then we will be talking about round 10 later in the agenda.
All right. Any questions, comments? All right, well, we will move on to the Genesee River Watershed Coalition with Kelly, District Manager from Monroe County, SWCC.
Hello. Give me 1 second here.
So while Kelly's teeing up her presentation, I'll just mention, due to scheduling conflicts, we tried really hard to get Kelly to join us for our April meeting, but that's a really busy time for most districts with tree sales and whatnot, and then with the Envirothon the following month. So, I wanted to make sure she got some time on her agenda to share what's going on in that coalition, and also I think Kelly has some kind of exciting news to share for everybody.
Okay. Guess we should start at the beginning.
It's a good place to start.
All right, sorry, I wasn't prepared yet. I thought I had more time. I was working on something. Thank you.
We're moving along.
Can everybody see my title slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. So, thank you for having me today, Bethany. And again, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. We've had a lot going on here with Envirothon and tree program that we were getting through in April and May, and we're at 50% staffing right now due to staff out on medical leave. So I appreciate you rescheduling this for us and giving me the opportunity to present on what's going on with the Genesee River Watershed Coalition. And it just so happens that we'll have some good news throughout the presentation that happened within the last month. So it all worked out. So I'm Kelly Emmerich. I'm the executive director here for Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District. I've been the director since 2010. I have over 20 years with soil and water. I started at Cayuga County out of college and worked there almost 4 years as a tech, came to Monroe County in 2008 as a tech, and then took over as manager in 2010. So one of our roles here in Monroe County is we are the treasurer for the Genesee River Watershed Coalition. So hence all contracts, funding, anything like that has come through our office over the years, similar to how you probably heard about the other coalitions a couple months ago. There's usually one point of contact at one district for all of that. So the Coalition of Conservation Districts, we were established in 2016. We started meeting actually in 2015, but our actual memorandum of understanding between 10 soil and water conservation districts happened in 2016, where we all signed on. And the whole purpose originally, like every other coalition, watershed coalition, is to work cooperatively to promote and implement conservation projects and programs for us on both public and private land, since we have the ability to work on private land within the Genesee River watershed. And this all falls under New York State Soil and Water Conservation District law. So we did receive some startup funding that was provided by New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and then funneled through Department of Ag and Markets. That funding was managed by Ag and Markets State Soil and Water Committee by Lauren Prozorski, who you know just recently retired. So Lauren and I worked a lot together over the years on the coalition contract and closeout. But we got over $650,000 from the state to start up, and we were able to bring on a coordinator in August of 2017 until April of 2020, so almost 3 years. And that funding allowed us to spend money on the coordinator, mostly in salary and benefits, followed by some seed money that we contracted with Bergman Associates, which is a consulting firm here in Monroe County, now known as Colliers. They were bought out a few years ago to create a database, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. We were also able to hire, we had some money in there to hire interns to help with that database management. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation. So interesting for us that we have the 10 counties here in Western New York. We have Allegheny, Cattaraugus has a tiny little piece. Genesee, Livingston, Monroe, Ontario, Orleans has a very, very small piece, as you can see there. Steuben, Wyoming, and we're fortunate that we do work cooperatively with Potter County, Pennsylvania. So they do attend our meetings. They do have access to the database. The only thing that they're not privy to is New York State funding. So we can't give them any money for BMPs outside of New York. A little bit about the Genesee River watershed. You can see here in the photo, it's almost 2,500 square miles. It's dominated by forest land and agriculture, mostly agriculture in the upper watershed, pretty much until you get to Monroe County. It's about 157 miles long, covers the 2 states, New York and Pennsylvania, and 10 counties. It also covers 99 towns, 27 villages, and 2 cities. There's 31 significant bodies of waters throughout the basin, and there's high quality fish and wildlife habitat, recreational opportunities. And the biggest concern with the Genesee River watershed is for water quality, for nutrients and sediment, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that amongst a lot of the watershed coalitions. So some of the programs and projects, so these are coalition-based programs and projects that were received early on and came into play. So in 2017, so like really early on, we purchased 2 interseeder machines by Interseeder Technologies, which is a company that developed these machines through Penn State University. So it just so happened it came out of Pennsylvania. And as you know, interseeding, it allows farmers to drill crops into a standing cash crop, so they can establish a cover crop within that cash crop, so they have more time to grow that cover crop before winter comes. I'm sure you guys are familiar with cover crops, but I still added it in here. It protects the soil over winter, provides numerous benefits such as recycling nitrogen in the soil, protects it from erosion, and adds organic matter. It took us a good year to establish the rental program, going back and forth, figuring out what the rental rates would be, how we were going to transport the machine. Farmers that were renting it we had to go through all the insurance requirements, and then come up with seed mixes that we were going to promote to the farms within the coalition. So the interseeders were 6-row. They weighed about 4,500 pounds a piece. They were about 16.5 feet wide. You really needed a large pickup truck, more than like an F-150, to haul these and tow these machines around the watershed. And then there was the 2 units available to rent. So we also did end up purchasing with coalition funds a no-till drill attachment for one of the machines. No-till drills are used and tested by some farms to disturb as little soil as possible, where they can plant right into the previous year's residue. So provides like less land disturbance. So while we had these machines in 2019, we were able to interseed 100 acres, and as well as use interseed 12 acres of corn. To demonstrate the equipment, we hosted a field day in the Genesee River watershed down in Livingston County at a producer's farm, and it was used to promote that interseeding within the Genesee River basin. And then we also used it for the no-till drill. We did over 1,000 acres of farmland across 15 farms in 2021. And then Penn State just so happened to want to partner with the coalition to do trials in 2021 to collect data to investigate the benefits and drawbacks of interseeding in Western New York and Northern PA. And they did do a presentation to the coalition on that data. So if anybody's interested in it, I can certainly share it with you. So however, you'll see that in 2023, we did transfer the ownership of those machines. One is in Allegheny County Soil and Water, and the other one ended up going to Erie County Soil and Water, even though they're not part of the coalition. And that was primarily due to the fact that it was really impractical to try and move these 2 machines across 10 counties within this large watershed. There's a very narrow window to do the interseeding, and it just became impossible to try and move those around and meet those time frames for interseeding. We also did have quite a few issues with the machines themselves. That particular brand of machine, there was a lot of breakdown of those machines, a lot of repairs that needed to take place. So the other members of the coalition did not want the other machines, so hence it was Erie County who was willing to take it. So it stayed with the Soil and Water Conservation District. Both are being used within those counties still for interseeding, and then the one in Allegheny also has the no-till drill. We also applied for and received a grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and it was the Genesee River Watershed Phosphorus and Sediment Reduction Project. We were fortunate to have help with this application. This was prior to having a coordinator hired. We had help with this application from Victor DiGiacomo to apply for this money, and Genesee County Soil and Water managed the grant in conjunction with myself. And then once the coordinator was brought on, the coordinator helped manage this grant as well. So this was from 2017 to 2022. The whole goal was to reduce soil erosion and loading of sediment and nutrients through the implementation of ag BMPs. So 7 of the 10 counties participated in this grant. And overall, I'm not going to read through these numbers. You guys will get copies of this presentation, but this is everything that was implemented for ag BMPs through that grant. We got over $646,000 in GLRI money. Yeah, this was Great Lakes Restoration Initiative money from directly from EPA. And we had almost an $86,000 match in this grant by the time we were done. And overall, it was estimated that about 6,800 pounds of phosphorus and over 1,200 tons of sediment were saved over the lifespan of each of these BMPs in the watershed. Another cooperative grant that was applied for was through the Great Lakes Commission in 2019. It was closed out in 2023. So this was $200,000 for stream bank erosion projects and riparian buffers. So the 3 districts that participated in this in the coalition were Allegheny, Genesee, and Monroe. We had proposed over $56,000 in match funds because this is federal money as well. Basically using landowner cost share as well as AIM match. And so the goals were reduction over the life of the installed practices of almost 1,200 pounds, and then soil sediment savings of almost 1,400 tons. So within this grant, we had 800 feet of stream bank stabilization on 3 sites in Allegheny and Monroe. And then 6.7 acres of riparian forest buffer on multiple sites in 2 counties. So that was Genesee, Monroe. And here you can just see the photos of Monroe County's erosion issue here on Owaka Creek. Over in Wheatland, the town of Wheatland in our county, Owaka Creek is a highly regarded trout stream in our county. So people do travel all over to fish and fly fish in that creek. So it was some major erosion concerns on that stream. And then you can see the one in Allegheny County. I cannot remember the name of that creek, but you can see the massive amount of erosion occurring there. And that was directly adjacent to some farmland. So best management practices implemented in the Genesee River Basin. So we look at non-ag best management practices that are focused on erosion and nutrient reduction on non-ag lands. So the focus for the basin is invasive species management and reforestation, putting in riparian buffers on non-ag land, of course, the stream bank and shoreline stabilization, road ditch stabilization, stormwater management practice retrofits. We've had a lot of salt storages funded, and then culvert replacements to reduce flooding and erosion. So just an example here for a stormwater management practice retrofit. Here is a project in our county for a cul-de-sac retrofit that takes the before with that large paved cul-de-sac, and we turn it into an island in the middle, which is a bioretention facility constructed in the center of the cul-de-sac that takes on that drainage from the pavement and that filters pollutants within that runoff that's being directed to that island. So you're disconnecting that impervious cover and also saving water capacity in the storm sewer system, you know, how much gallons that the storm sewer system can handle. We're reducing that. And that's just one example of a potential, like these potential projects that we're doing for stormwater retrofits. So here's all the non-ag BMP funding that's been applied for and awarded by the districts within the Genesee River Basin. Of course, this doesn't include Potter. I don't get their information. So this is just the New York counties. So from 2017 to spring of last year, I actually don't have the numbers yet. I got to get those from April 2025 to now. But the total funding applied for state and federal is over $5.5 million in funds, and over 44 million was awarded. So state funding awarded represents about 45% of all the funding that was received. As you can see here, the awarded is in green, the state is on the left, and then the federal represents actually 55% of the funds. A lot of districts have been very successful with getting GLRI money for non-ag BMPs that are applied for and awarded within the basin here. And then, of course, there's a focus on ag BMPs as well. So those are erosion and nutrient reduction on ag lands. So cover crops, riparian buffers, excluding animals from streams or access control, water and sediment control basins, waterways, strip cropping are all very popular practices that are being implemented throughout the basin. And so here's all the BMP funding by the districts applied for and awarded through the districts in the Genesee River Basin, again from 2017 all the way till spring of last year. So state and federal money overall applied for is over 40 million, and over 22 million has been awarded. And this is a complete shift on what's getting awarded for ag BMPs. 98.5% of all the money coming in for ag BMPs is from the state. So the federal only represents 1.5% of all the funds that are being implemented for ag practices within the watershed. And you can see the different programs here with the numbers, and of course you'll get a copy of this application, but Ag Non-Point Source is the first one on the far left. That continues to be the #1 funding for ag BMPs for districts within the Genesee River watershed, followed by CRF, Ecosystem-based management is very small amount, so that those graphs barely even show up on my graphic here. CAFO waste storage was a temporary program by the governor's office. So that was awarded over $3 million. Some districts are implementing ag BMPs with the FLOPA money that they're getting. It's a very small percentage, as you can see. RCPP is Regional Conservation Partnership Program through NRCS. That's federal funding. That's a very small portion. Some districts are using their Part C funds to implement ag BMPs as well. You can see it's a very small amount, but they're still using it. Then, of course, we have the newer, it hasn't been around that long, AEM cost share program. You're going to start seeing that probably bump up over the years as that cost share money increases. Great Lakes Commission is federal for some reason. There's been a lot of money applied for ag BMPs in the watershed over the years through Great Lakes Commission, not so much a lot of it being awarded. It seems like they're awarding more of the non-ag projects. The National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's Sustain Our Great Lakes program is being used, and then the newer CAFO Enhanced Nutrient and Methane Management Program. You can see quite a bit of money was applied for there, over 7 million, and 1.8 was awarded. So with the money that we got, as I mentioned in the beginning, we were able to develop an AIM Best Management Practice web application, or what we like to always refer to it as a database to track our ag BMPs, and that's how I can actually track and report out to the state on what's being implemented in the watershed. So the Ag BMP web application, it was custom made, it's proprietary, it tracks, manages, and reports on all the AIM practices for farms within the Tennessee River watershed. It was created, it took us a couple years to work with Bergman to get that created and finalized and launched in 2019 for our use. It's modeled after the Upper Susquehanna Coalition's database. However, ours is less detailed because we don't have a TMDL watershed. Genesee River isn't a TMDL, so we're not required to do some of the things that the Upper Susquehanna has. So it was a more simplified version. And that money came from that seed money that we got. And it's housed, the database is housed on the server here by Monroe County GIS department on behalf of the Genesee River Watershed Coalition. And we're fortunate that they don't charge us to actually house that on the server. The county here pays for all of that. And so we were able to hire 3 interns and to move around the watershed to implement all that historical AIM data from 2010 to 2019 into the web application to get that in there. And then from that to 19 and beyond, it's the responsibility of the individual district to update it annually. And all the data that's within this application is protected under the AIM program as well. This is just a snapshot of what it might look like. So this is a specific farm in Monroe County. All the tier 1 information is in there, but I can click on this farm and see that we have a water and sediment control basin. There's one record of that, the implementation date, when it was inspected, the lifespan of the BMP, was it cost shared, yes or no, and then down below you can put the name of the program. I couldn't fit the whole screen on here. You put in the details of the BMP, where the funding came from, Is it an actual NRCS standard? Was it implemented to that? Yes. And then you can see the different watersheds, the 12 HUC watersheds there in red, that automatically bring that up of where that BMP is located. So these records right here that we're showing, so I can run a report on the whole basin, and it's only going to give me what districts are actually putting into the database. So from 2010, I ran this on June 9th. There's over 1,700 BMPs within the database that have been implemented within the basin. And it'll tell me, because in here you can put the tier 1 data, the AIM tier 1. So it'll tell you how much that farm owns and how much they rent. So right now, from what's in the database, the total owned farmland is over 369,000 acres, and total rented farmland is a lot, over 218,000 acres. So some of the most implemented BMPs in the Genesee River Basin is cover crops. So when I run this, I can see how many cover crop practices there are. And then that's followed by manure storage facilities. And then from there, other popular BMPs are heavy use area protection, access roads, critical area planting. There's quite a few nutrient management plans, and then quite a bit of prescribed grazing projects. So some great news in May. So these are some of our recent and current activities going on with the coalition. We finally executed another contract directly with DEC for over $500,000 for 5 years. And that's a capacity building money contract for the coalition. So we are going to be hiring a coordinator, as well as there's money in there to subcontract for some improvements and upgrades to that database web application. Another big task that's going on is the Genesee River Watershed Implementation Plan. That's being developed by the project team, which includes DEC, the coalition, our office, and the planning councils. So that includes the Genesee Finger Lakes Planning Council, Southern Tier West, and Southern Tier Central. And as well as there's a watershed advisory committee that was established in 2024, that's made up of stakeholders, general stakeholders interested in the Genesee River Basin. So we have quite a few municipality representatives. We have folks from the academic side, from the different colleges that are encompassed in the watershed. Watershed groups, Oaxaca Creek Watershed attends all these meetings, and nonprofits, and then just an interested landowner within the watershed. We have had some farmers attend these as well, so inputs from them as well. So the purpose of this watershed implementation plan is to basically support the DEC's 9-element watershed plan that was created in 2015. That's for phosphorus and sediment for the Genesee River watershed. And what this plan will do is elevate any local projects and priorities within the watershed, address local water quality issues. So there'll be opportunities for projects with water quantity issues like floods and droughts, as well as habitat benefits. It will refocus efforts within the watershed, implementation efforts in a strategic way. And then we'll be able to use this plan to acquire and leverage more state and federal funding in the future. Within this plan, we're grouping the plan into 5 sectors. So we have urban, forested, wastewater, septic, and then agricultural. As I mentioned, agricultural encompasses most of the upper watershed, but we have to account for those other sectors as well, especially here in Monroe County when it's highly urbanized. I'm sure everybody's probably familiar with the 9-element plan. The Genesee River Watershed 9-element plan was the first plan approved in New York State back in 2015. And that plan is 9 elements. So it includes quantification of pollutant sources, water quality targets, and pollution reductions needed to achieve certain targets. It includes best management practices to help achieve those reductions, technical and financial assistance that's needed to implement those practices. It also included stakeholder input, an implementation schedule, milestones, and estimated timeframes for practice implementation. It also includes assessment criteria and a monitoring plan. So these 9-element plans typically always address non-point source pollution, but can include point sources as well. And of course, all these plans are voluntary. So for us, we're not in one of those TMDL watersheds. So any recommendations from the 9-element plan and our watershed implementation plan are all voluntary. So that's why we are drumming up so much local support to make sure we can implement this plan effectively. So we hosted our first watershed advisory committee in September of 2024. It went out, there was an opportunity at many government workshops and in other workshops that were held throughout the basin to drum up interest from stakeholders. They could sign up. DEC manages that list, but there was over 61 stakeholders that were interested in being a part of this watershed advisory committees. And so at this meeting, these stakeholders were able to review what their roles and responsibilities of the committee would be. They could bring comments on what they wanted to see in the watershed improvement plan, implementation plan, I'm sorry, and submit projects that they know of. Like I said, this is made up of municipalities, academics, watershed groups, farmers. So if they see areas that there's issues with flooding or erosion, we developed a survey 123 by the project team that they could upload their actual projects to, and that's all managed. That survey 123 is managed by our Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council. And then in 2025, the spring last year, we had a stakeholder workshop across the basin. Those workshops were held in each county. Some counties that didn't have a lot of the watershed, like Orleans, they partnered with Monroe, and we held an Orleans-Monroe workshop. And that was also to help develop this extensive project list for this watershed implementation plan. So what are the next steps? The next steps is right now I'm working with DEC here in Western New York to finalize a job description for the coordinator, advertise and hire, finalize the WIP for the basin to support that 9-element plan, and update and expand the database that we have. And then one of the big things that we were really hoping to see in the EPF this year that didn't make it in for the second year in a row is long-term funding through the EPF for the Genesee River Coalition to support a long-term coordinator as well as BMP implementation. And those that haven't been to Rochester, that's actually High Falls on the Genesee River. This photo is from New York State Parks. If anybody's interested, there's a big proposal by the state to put a park in down here on this vacant land. So you can just Google that and you can see all the plans of what they're going to do for this open redeveloped land. It was very industrial back in the day, so they're redeveloping it into a park. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Kelly. I would be interested in the information in that 2021 interceding trial that Penn
Yeah.
State.
The Penn State study.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send that along.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any other questions or comments for Kelly?
I do. It's more just a quick one about the web application that you were talking about. So that relies on individual districts to enter in their own data.
Correct.
Do you ever, I guess, run into, I don't know, like data errors or issues with that when you have so many different districts entering into one master database?
Yeah, so if we've had several tutorials on it and we have a handbook on it to make sure to try and overcome that. But of course you're going to have some of that human error where some, like, you have to actually populate the data into cells. And so we had one county, the intern put a lot of the information in the comments, and you can't run reports from the comments. So some of that has to be redone for that county. So there's that type of error. And then of course we have districts that don't keep up with it or don't want to use it or say they don't have time. So I think the coordinator can help with that, try and overcome some of those pitfalls. So like I can only report on what's happening for those districts that are actually putting the data in. And because we don't have regulations where we have to use it, there's no way for us to force the districts to use it. But I know that most of them do, because it's a great way to see what you have within your county. And you can just click on a point and bring up the farm, what was implemented, the year, and all the data on it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I'm just curious because, you know, we've been trying to think of some alternatives and some ways to advance our, you know, the state committee data tracking and data management systems, and are, you know, kind of piloting this kind of web-based approach through the Eastern Finger Lakes Coalition. So, you know, I was just curious what your experience was with that. And that's kind of where I was coming from. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great tool. Like I can't speak for all the districts, but I know that our county relies on us to work with the private landowners and the agricultural producers. And, you know, we do get a lot of questions from the county about what we're doing, and it's a great tool. Like I can run a report and I can have like what we've done on ag land, what BMPs were put in and what watershed. I can easily report that out to them if they have questions on it. So it's been a very useful tool for us.
Thank you, Kelly. That's all my questions.
You're welcome.
Is there any
Well, if
other
anybody has other questions too, they can always email me.
All right, well, thanks again, Kelly, for that information. That was very interesting.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the staff and conservation district reports and public comments. And Bethany, I'll let you run through the list.
Fantastic. I think we're going to do this one a little bit different. Generally, I kind of like to go Albany, Syracuse, and then roll call, but I think I'm just gonna do a roll call of our staff and wherever you're sitting, deliver your report. But I'll kick things off. So I mentioned earlier, we concluded our regional manager meeting series last week. Our staff spent the first 2 weeks of June hosting these manager meetings all across the state, which are awesome just because they bring districts from one particular region of the state together and just allows them to interact with one another, back questions and thoughts off each other and get feedback. So I'll let the individual regional coordinators report, on their meetings, but I just want to thank all of our regional coordinators for organizing those meetings and all the effort that you all put into hosting those meetings and coordinating lunch. It's a lot of work, and I was able to make it to 5 out of 6, and they were all awesome and well done and well attended. So thank you to all of you. And also, I wanted to say thank you to our NRCS, NYACD, and CDEA partners for sending representatives to the meetings, or if they weren't able to make it, sending a written report. I think it's really important to be able to share partnership reports out with districts, and I really appreciate everybody's time to help us make that happen as well. I am still working on our 2025 State Committee Annual Report. I'm getting close to being finished with the layout and having it ready to be reviewed by our front office team. So I'm really hoping to have that wrapped up and finished and published sometime this summer. As Brian mentioned, I was able to participate in the interviews for the ecosystem-based management program manager position, and I really value having the opportunity to be part of those. We are moving forward with I think we're working on a 2-day state committee meeting and conservation tour for September. I mentioned this, I think, last meeting. We had originally planned for July, but the location we were looking at, it's crazy to do anything down there in the summer months. So we're shifting to a September meeting, and tentatively those dates are September 15th to September 16th. Likely we'll have the meeting on the first day, followed by the tour on the second day. But we'll keep everybody updated on those as the progress for that planning of that meeting continues. But I also wanted to mention that we are planning a statewide managers meeting. We don't hold those every year. It's a kind of an every other year type of thing, and 2026 just happens to be a year that we're going to be holding a statewide managers meeting. The dates for that meeting will be November 4th to November 5th. I believe we have narrowed in on a hotel location, so we'll get that information out to districts as a save the date. But I also wanted to mention that something we were considering for that particular meeting is we were considering hosting a state committee meeting on November 4th. So it would be on site where we are planning to have the managers meeting, and thought it would be nice to invite all of our voting members to stay and participate in the managers meeting. But I guess I wanted to get the feedback from our voting members on all of that, if that seemed like an okay idea to pursue.
I like the idea myself.
And I should also mention, that invitation would also extend to our advisory members as well, not just our voting members, but.
Do you have an idea of where that might be? Just, not a general location, I guess.
Syracuse, I believe, is where
Okay.
we are going to be heading. I gotta confirm that with Melissa though, after this meeting.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, I like the idea.
Maureen, I think, were you trying to say something? You may have been on mute.
Well, I said I thought the shared meeting was a good idea.
Perfect. Well, so we'll keep everybody apprised of all the updates regarding that meeting as well. But that concludes, I guess, my report for today. So we'll move to Victor Giacomo.
Sure. Thanks, Bethany. Yeah, just briefly about Region 1's managers meeting. As you said, well attended. Lots of great comments by all attended. Partnerships were also in well attendance as well, with NYACD and Employees Association and NRCS in attendance as well. So always great to see new faces at these meetings, but also to hear the same voices that really are there to guide some of those newer members, those newer managers to the region, so that they can fully understand what's going on. And I think that that passing of knowledge and leadership is instrumental. And these types of meetings really allow us to effectively do that. So excited to have that conversation continue at the statewide meeting. Also just wanted to mention that on July 30th, the next meeting of the operations subcommittee will convene from 1 to 3. More the merrier. Also, I just wanted to add to Kelly's presentation just a bit about the Rochester or Genesee River Basin. Just a fun fact that the Rochester embayment was one of the original 42 Great Lakes areas of concern. 42 toxic hotspots in the Great Lakes. Had to be pretty bad to receive that accolade back in the early 80s. In late October of 2024, the Rochester embayment was delisted as a Great Lakes area of concern. Now, there were a lot of comprehensive initiatives in the Genesee River Basin and the Rochester embayment to make this a possibility, but the decades of work by the FLOPA counties and the Genesee River Coalition were instrumental in making that a possibility in October of 2024. So the work within the upper watershed should most certainly not be discounted for that type of success. So great to hear that presentation, Kelly, and great to hear about the progress of the coalition. So that's about it.
Thank you, Victor. Let's see, Ryan.
Sure, thanks, Bethany. Likewise, on the managers meeting in Region 4, we were up in Krogan last week. A lot of good ideas kind of forthcoming. We left the agenda a little bit open this year to allow for some more kind of roundtable among districts. So a lot of attendees there, which was great. And as Vic mentioned, a lot of partners. Kind of left it open to discussing things like staffing and programs and funding around the state. So a lot of good feedback. I tend to hear a lot of things from managers like one-on-one, and we kind of troubleshoot ideas, but it was nice to be in a group among others so they could kind of network and hash out some ideas, kind of compare notes on programs and things like that and funding. So it went really well. Reviewed some policies, Tim's Conservation Referral Authority, a lot of partnership updates. We also had NYACD and NRCS in the room. Thanks for attending there, Scott. So a lot of good dialogue there and communication on funding and partnerships, some budget and policy updates, but well attended. Saw some new faces. I have a couple new counties in my region now since we've shifted recently, so we got a kind of a new dynamic with some different folks in the room. So I thought it went really well and worth the time. A few other things since last meeting. Fellow state committee staff members and some agency folks. We sat on the state Envirothon committee. So all the local stuff that went on last month that we attended kind of accumulated together to enter the state Envirothon here at SUNY Cortland. Several hundred kids from around the state. Went really well despite some turnover in committee members, but really fun to be a part of that. The weather was great. All went well with that, and a lot of good planning behind the scenes. And then lastly, I'll mention quickly a meeting I attended last week, maybe the week before, the Watershed Forestry Task Force meeting down in the USC area in Binghamton. again, with some new counties that I have in my region, I'm trying to attend some of these other watershed coalition meetings and task force meetings to kind of get an idea of what these counties are doing. Great presentation by a drone services company that highlighted some of the stuff we've seen recently and some of the new kind of programs they can pursue, like cover crop application with aerial drones, pesticide application. But it was really eye-opening to see some of the different mapping deliverables they can do with LiDAR and some of the thermal imaging, invasive species identification from the air, targeting certain spray areas. So a lot of cool stuff. Some of the stuff that seemed new only last year, they've even moved beyond that and have some additional deliverables they can provide nowadays. So really kind of neat. Some partnership updates there, of course, and some other presentations, which was great. So really learned a lot. It was nice to kind of join a different group, one that I haven't been involved with in the past. So that's mostly it from Region 4. Thanks, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ryan. Ben. You guys are muted in Albany.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It wasn't me this time.
That's my fault.
So yeah, managers meetings went well. Mine was very well attended. We had 12 districts in the room. There's like 35 people there, 6 of our state committee staff plus all the partners, which was nice to see those partners in the room and you can get those reports. Topics vary at these meetings from region to region. You know, it's nice to kind of keep the agendas open. I attended Travis's as well last week, and anytime you have like an open session to get feedback from districts, you generally don't get the same topics from one region to the next, which is kind of cool. You kind of see what the hot topics are from one area to the next. We make a lot of notes, and then we can all kind of debrief on them later on to kind of see what we need to work on next. But yeah, we had 35 people there. It was very well attended. Lunch was good. Gideon said mine was the best lunch all week, so I'm going to take it.
You could take credit for that.
I think I can.
Okay. Not the main house of the North Country or whatever they call themselves.
Listen, I ordered it. That's what
Oh,
I'm gonna go
good.
with.
It was good.
But it's great to work with those folks too. It gives us the opportunity to work with some local food vendors. My meeting was at the Warrensburg DEC office, which we had never used before, but those folks were great there. Let us in, let us use the room. They said anytime we need it, just give us a heads up and feel free to come back. So that was great. Beyond the managers meetings, a lot of business as usual, closeouts, a lot of paperwork, site visits, grant extensions coming up. Went to a meeting yesterday, Washington County Soil and Water was invited to have their monthly board meeting at a farm that just recently implemented a CRF project. So that was nice. The farm was very grateful. So they do a lot of farmers markets and some, I'll say like fresh food, like smash burgers and tacos and that sort of stuff. So they cook lunch for the board and anybody that was in attendance. And we got to see some of the projects they put in. So that was pretty neat to get out this time of year and see some of that. What else? Went to the Silvo pasture meeting last week. A few of us attended. Travis, Gideon were there. Some folks from our farmland protection office as well. That was really neat. We hear from Brett Chedzoy and others at some of our trainings about silvo pasture, agroforestry stuff. But this meeting was more strictly through the lens of a forester. He's out of Massachusetts, but he does work in New York State as well. So it was really just about taking the existing woodlot and subtracting trees from that woodlot to try to put animals in there and how to go about that. Kind of the message of there's no right way, no wrong way to do it. You just have to try to figure it out for the existing stand and then what the goals are of the producer. So we had districts there in attendance too, so it was good to see that folks are paying attention and trying to get involved with that work in those systems. But yeah, like I said, a lot of meetings both in person and virtual. So the calendar is definitely booked. But I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Ben. Travis, you're next.
Just like all the other coordinators, had our regional managers meeting. We got a new location this year down in Rockland County. That was to try to make it a little more centralized for the southern portion of my region, well attended. I think we had 10 out of the 11 counties there, mix of staff and board members. A lot of good discussion was generated between the districts about programs and projects they're working on. Partnership updates generated some good discussion. A lot of similar things to what the other regional coordinators were talking about. Outside of that, I attended the Silva Pasture Workshop with Ben. Similar things there. It was good to hear those updates, that information from the side of the forester. Working on attending district board meetings, providing support where needed. A lot of closeouts and potential grant amendments coming through. So just working with districts to get those processed.
All right. Chastity.
Hey, everybody. So I have been continuing to work on AEM round 18 closeouts. We're getting very close. And round 19 tier 4 implementation projects have been coming in and getting approved. At this point, I have 44 districts completed and approved, 9 under review. This includes 244 farms for projects, 281 systems, and well over 700 practices proposed. So pretty good job with districts across the state working on different projects out there and planning projects. Also, we've been testing and working with districts on the urban agriculture tier 2, specifically with New York City and Chino. That's been going really well. And we've also been trying to develop a project that she can work with applying through our program, specifically CRF. So we're pretty excited and it seems to be moving forward. In those round 19 projects, we also have a nearshore aquaculture proposed project. So we're hoping to give you guys some updates on those new systems and programs very soon. And so good luck, everybody.
Hey, Chaz.
Yeah.
This is Brian. So just, thinking about the amount of farms and systems in some of our other programs and the expenses of those versus that of AIM base, just doing a quick math in my head, which I'm not gonna, demonstrate to everybody. There's a lot of good smaller projects, right? That's happening under AIM base because that's a lot of farms, a lot of systems. Do you have like an average cost or something you could bring back to the committee at a later date?
I sure can. I know round 17, it was around $25,000.
Yeah.
So I don't at this point, but yes, I absolutely can. And there's some really interesting projects and partnering projects. So projects that are partnered with some other sources of funding that are getting work done. And it's really, really super, super interesting and lots of awesome photos. So
I know at the managers meeting, Ben's managers meeting, we talked a lot about like balancing the need for new farms to engage in programs with that of, farms that have engaged already in the past and thinking about like, where funding should go and highest priority. And, I'd like to bring AIM base into that conversation because as a reminder to this group, some of the committee members were there when we created the tier 4 cost share track, but that really was the intent, was to try to, establish a funding source for, smaller farms, smaller projects, diverse set of farms, not taking away anything from other programs, but, the need to be able to provide districts with more tools to address AEM resource concerns prioritized through AEM. So just that brief update, I think gives, credibility to that goal.
and the nice thing is they're local projects identified by the boards that are in those counties. So awesome opportunities.
For sure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Jason, do you have anything additional to report today?
Nothing beyond my program status update. Thank you.
Jennifer?
Nothing more, thank you.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, just real quick, we had coverage for the planning team at the managers meetings. I had a chance to attend Region 2 and 4. And I thought those were really good meetings, good to get in front of districts and hear what's going on out there. We brought an update that I'll share a brief version of here. The planning team is making an effort to make ourselves more available for smaller, more personal training opportunities to districts around the state, and some districts have already taken us up on that going forward. So that's exciting. And then looking forward to the future, we have a 4-day training opportunity at Conservation Skills Workshop, where we will be doing a tier 2, tier 3 walkthrough over 4 days. So look forward to that. Otherwise, it's planning review as usual and keep pushing forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Gideon, do you have a report for today?
Not a lot more than what's already been discussed. I did have the opportunity to attend Region 5 and Region 6 managers meetings. Two very, I guess, different regions, if you will. I mean, very fun to hear all the different projects that are happening across the landscapes, and how different priorities are reflected in the counties. So good experience, and I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of new staff out there, and we're certainly available and looking forward to helping districts, bring those folks up to speed with AEM and all other things. So, and like Brendan said, we have several CNMP reviews ongoing, both for new certified planners and also the QA/QC. So, plenty going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Clark.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention an update from the State Tech Guide Committee. That's the mostly NRCS staff committee that operates the ePhotog, where all our standards are located. And that committee is just bracing for a huge batch of NRCS standards to come through from national. NRCS National typically reviews standards on a 5-year rotating basis, but occasionally the politicians will get involved and ask all the standards to be evaluated all at once. So that's happening now, and last time it was in one of the farm bills, like previous farm bill or the one before that. So all the standards are going to be up for review, and that'll trickle down through the STGC committee and then out to everybody else. That's it.
Do you anticipate any kind of sweeping changes? Think about new standards or changes to existing standards? Or do you think it's just pretty much look at them all and say,
who's to say?
Yeah, I know, I'm asking the only person, but thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Marin, do you have a report for today?
Yeah, I threw together kind of some stuff I've been working on. So I'm only about 3 weeks in here, but I definitely have hit the ground running, or at least it feels that way. Some different projects I've been working on as I worked with Chaz, Greg, and Tyler on compiling the round 18 technical assistant hours data, just looking at where districts were utilizing their time in the AIM core planning process. I also have been working on just getting more familiar with the core database for state committee, as well as capturing for some specific districts that have already requested data out of that core database for what type of BMP projects they've implemented through different state committee funds that are available through programs. A great group I've had the opportunity to participate with weekly is a GIS group that some other divisions participate in, and that's been terrific to just see some demonstration projects about how other divisions are utilizing GIS and what what we've been working on at state committee, and how I can be utilizing them as a resource, or they're utilizing us as a resource for what they're working on. I've also had the pleasure of traveling to 2 of the managers' meetings. I got to see Ben and Ryan. They're really interesting meetings, both of them, and it was a great turnout with just discussion. I also got an opportunity to connect with Brendan and Gideon and hear more about how they're engaging districts, especially those newer staff, as they mentioned, and doing some AIM trainings. So it's been definitely packed full. I gotta say, there's just really terrific collaboration that happens among this group, and I felt a really good, energy of just, working together, being able to ask questions, getting really good comments back about some of the work that I've been producing, what little I've done, I would say, for 3 weeks. But it's been really good, and I think that's kind of probably the best I can do on the fly here, Bethany. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marin. Melissa, do you have any reports for today?
Nothing to report. Thank you, Bethany.
Okay. We may have had a couple folks from the state committee staff join. Did I miss anybody?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Hi, Bethany. Tim Sheldon. Well, I'm looking forward to the hiring of a new ABM program coordinator. But until then, I'll continue to keep those lights on. The plan of works are just taking a little longer than expected, but it's moving along, and should be reaching out to districts pretty soon with contracts. Then also, I did attend Scott Fickbaum's manager's meeting, and it was good to hear, what's going on, but especially as it relates even to EBM, about how that program can grow and change. So again, excited to pass that info to that new manager. But along with Scott, yesterday toured a small vegetable and cannabis farm, thanks to Dustin Lewis and one of his interns, Emma, to make that connection. It was good to hear some of the resource concerns that that farm has, and just in general with that industry that is a bit new and unique, what they are dealing with as ag producers. So it was really good to hear. Hope to get on maybe a slightly larger one to hear or to see what a more established farm might be running into. But a lot of the things, it's crossover, just as Short's a products that is a little different than most other ag, but at the end of the day, the concerns are similar. So that was good to hear.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, I think that concludes our state committee staff reports. So I'll just pause here for a moment, and if there are any district staff or district board members that would like to share a report, please do so now.
Hey, Bethany, this is Dustin from Saratoga Soil and Water.
Hi, Dustin.
Hey, I just wanted to kind of restate a couple things. The marathon The chair of the Marathon Committee went exceedingly well. Everybody seemed very happy. The students had a good time. Ulster County was our victor for this year. That'll be able to represent New York State at the Mississippi event, July 19th through the 25th. And I wanted to call out just really quickly, we had 62 volunteers for the 2-day event, 13 Ag and Markets and State Committee staff, 4 Envirothon alumni, folks that have been at the event before, 2 Soil Water Conservation Society members, 1 Cornell rep, and staff from 28 different districts helped make the event possible. So I really wanted to thank everybody for attending, and especially State Committee and Ag and Markets for sending your staff to the event. It was a wonderful event, and looking forward to next year's. We're already started planning for next year, and if anybody is interested in helping out or being a part of the committee, you don't have to be district staff. Obviously, we have lots of folks that are not district staff on the committee. So if anybody's interested in helping out, please reach out to me or anybody else on the committee that you see on the emails. And then the CDEA is going to be putting on an erosion sediment control certificate program review course August 4th and 5th in Ballston Spa. The announcement should be going out shortly, but if anybody, district or private individuals interested, that is kind of the state equivalent of the CPESC that allows you to do some of the qualified inspections and planning for stormwater. So those will be happening August 4th and 5th in Ballston Spa. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Dustin. Any other district folks? Hearing none. Anyone else on the line? Members of the public, or anybody else would like to share a report? Please do so. Okay, I think that wraps up that agenda item. Matt?
All right, the next meeting then would be July 21st. Does that work for everyone?
I'm trying to make it work.
All right, yeah, that's when we just start getting really busy. All right, so that we'll go with that, and then I'll turn the next portion over to you, Bethany.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. So for the remainder of the agenda, pursuant to the New York State Ethics Advisory Opinion, we will have to ask all districts, with the exception of the CDEA designated representative, and any farms who are joining on the call, to recuse from the next portion of the agenda, which will be our round 10 climate resilient farming RFP rating sheet discussion. This is our last item on the agenda, so you can sign off. We don't have any further business to discuss after this item. And I do want to note, just for the minutes, that Matt Brower, our chair, is recusing from this discussion. So Darren Hickling, our vice chair, will be presiding over the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take off, Bethany, so Darren can just close it out when you're done.
Very good. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
So we'll just give it a couple of minutes to let folks disconnect, and then we can proceed with the discussion. Thanks, Matt.
You want me to leave him out there or bring him?
I'll come out with you.
Okay.
So just to clarify, we do need district staff to sign off of the meeting before we can proceed. Okay, just bear with me, Jennifer, here.
Okay.
Beth, you might have to start kicking some people off.
That is unfortunately what I'm gonna be doing, so. Bear with me, folks.
So Travis, did you get any board members attending the managers meeting last week?
Yeah, we have a few board members, but nobody from NYACD, I don't think.
Yeah, but district board members?
Yeah, we have district board members.
Is anybody taking interest in wanting to be on the NYCD board? We have had.
Just a. They're gone. Okay.
You got Christos? Got it. Oh, yeah. Got you.
To talk to somebody about, but I didn't hear their district name.
Yeah,
he
I
has a
need
question
your
about that.
signatures. Okay. We are good, I believe. So, Jennifer?
Okay, thank you very much. So I am going to be providing a presentation on CRF Round 10 request for proposals. The CRF program is broken down into tracks, and the first track we are proposing a slight change in the title from alternative waste management and precision feed management to manure and methane management and precision feed management. It's just more direct to the goal of that track, which is methane reduction and avoidance. Track 2 is adaptation and resiliency. The goal of that track is climate resiliency, including drought and flood. Track 3 is healthy soils NY. The goal of that track is to improve soil health, reduce nitrous oxide, increase carbon sequestration. Track 4 is agricultural forest management. The goal is for carbon sequestration through afforestation. And today I'm going to be presenting the option for a new track, 5 for innovative demonstration projects. The goal would be innovative pilot demonstrations. So the proposed funding sources for CRF Round 10 are include the EPF, the budget that was just released for 26-27. The line item for CRF was 20.5 million. That includes a Cornell Soil Health for 700,000, Cornell agrophovoltaics for 1 million, and Cornell Cal's satellite farms for 2 million. So removing those, the allocation for forest management is 500,000. That is included in the round 10 total. So what we have available for round 10 is 16.8 million. New this year is a sustainable futures program, which CRF has been particularly called out, or specifically called out in that funding option. So we are looking into potentially utilizing 10 million from that funding source for round 10. Funds for projects from that Sustainable Futures program support methane mitigation, forestry, as well as including projects that relate directly to CRF. So this is pending approval. So what this would look like is if we only have the EPF funding available, we would have 16.8 million available. If we are able to add the Sustainable Futures funding, for 10 million, then we could have a maximum tentative budget of 26.8 million. So this is a proposed range of a budget from just the EPF funds that we have been, that are in this year's budget for 16.8 million, or potentially going all the way up to 26.8 million for round 10 if we are able to get approval to utilize 10 million from the Sustainable Futures Funds. For some comparison, this is what we had in round 9. We had 24 million available. 38.2 million was requested, and we were able to award 25.39 million.
We used some balance from previous years' returns.
Yeah, instead of offering partial awards, we're able to utilize some return funds to fully cover projects that could have been offered partial awards. So that's how we were able to go up to 25.39 million. So this is again what we're proposing for round 10. So round 9 was 25. Round 10, minimum funds available, the EPF would be 16.8 million. The maximum funds that we are looking to go out with would be 26.8 million. So this is our timeline. It's still, nothing has really changed from the last time we talked about a timeline for round 10. Still hoping to go and release in September. Proposals would be due in November, and then we would announce, present a ranked list in February of 2027, and then announce potentially during Earth Week of 2027 in March. So still some changes to the application. The SHPO map requirement is now being kind of moved up to the application phase. This is something that allows follow-up. We were requiring a plan of work. We're trying to really shorten that plan of work phase, make it non-existent if possible, go right from award to contract, or as little time in there as possible. So requiring a SHPO map at application now. The greenhouse gas emissions accounting has, in New York State for the Climate Act, has been updated to a 100-year global warming potential. The global warming potential converts all greenhouse gas units or greenhouse gases in units of carbon dioxide equivalents. The Climate Act in New York State now uses the more common 100-year GWP, which accounts for methane at 28 times more potent than CO2, using this 100-year time scale versus a 20-year time scale that we were previously doing. So what this really means for CRF and methane emissions is that there's less emphasis on the 100-year time scale versus the 20-year time scale, but it's still a very highly potent greenhouse gas and very important to mitigate. So some changes proposed for track 1. The goal of track 1 is methane reduction and avoidance. Already outlined this in the first slide that we're proposing a name change from alternative waste revised to manure and methane. So the old language was livestock management, alternative waste management, and precision feed management, and the new language would be livestock management, manure and methane management, and precision feed management. Just being more direct that methane is the goal here. So some additional changes for track 1. Manure storages are not eligible for cost share in CRF, so can be used as match only. Projects in CRF cannot result in a net increase in greenhouse gas emissions with state cost share funds. We're trying to, the whole goal of the program is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So all the projects need to have a reduction from their current level of emissions. Using state funds through the CRF program to construct a manure storage would increase funds, even if they're putting a cover on it. But track 1 is really still geared towards cover and flare retrofits to existing storages that remains eligible for cost share. So this change is really just about making it so that CRF cost share funding, the state funding, can't be used for manure storages. Match is still acceptable. Floor mounted low power manure aeration bubbler systems. These are eligible for state cost share under track 1 under CRF and can result in avoidance of methane emissions. This is something that has been eligible, just providing more emphasis that this is an eligible practice and encouraged because it can be an avoidance of methane emissions. Changes in track 2. Track 2 in round 9 was highly competitive, so funds are being proposed to be increased to help match that request. Round 9, we had $4 million offered for track 2 and a request of $8.9 million. So round 10, track 2 is ranging from $5 million to $7 million, depending on whether we can add the Sustainable Futures Funds. This track is for adaptation and resiliency, which is being emphasized more in the scoring criteria, including environmental co-benefits. We are proposing to change the scoring criteria this round, so I'm going to review those details in future slides. Track 2, frost management is eligible using irrigation systems. We had a project that came in last round that was awarded funding that proposed a frost management utilizing close irrigation system that completely freezes the plant and then protects it from frost. So frost management is being expanded really for round 10, or the communication about frost management is being expanded so that track 2 frost management is eligible using irrigation systems. Track 3 frost management is eligible using like frost fans and techniques that deal with frost protection and coincide or can be accompanied with soil health practices. Some changes for track 3. Agroforestry is eligible in track 3. It is not eligible in track 4. This is not anything that's really different. It's just trying to provide more clarification that any agroforestry project should come in through track 3 is where it best fits. Track 4 is strictly for afforestation and carbon sequestration. Frost protection is eligible for purchasing frost fans in track 3 when implementing soil health, integrated pest management, or other related BMPs. So frost management is now eligible under 2 tracks, depending on how it's being used on the farm.
Okay, just a little bit of clarification there. In part because frost fans really by itself doesn't have a practice standard attached to it, right? So we have to use that as a component for other practice systems that are eligible.
Right,
anytime. Look at the distinction there.
Right, anytime equipment is being purchased through CRF, it needs to be tied to a practice that is going to be implemented. So the point is to really help support the practice, and then equipment is needed to implement the practice. Then we want to support that equipment. So it's not an equipment program, but if you're implementing a practice that requires a piece of equipment that you don't have access to, then in some instances it's eligible.
Wouldn't think you have frost protection up here like you do down in Florida.
It would be used like in vineyards and orchard operations.
Yeah, but it just it seems like it's something new.
It is. I mean,
for this region.
Yeah, the Hudson Valley was impacted very severely this past spring, and what happens is you've got these warm-up periods later in winter months, which trick the trees, vines, and putting out buds early, and then you have a later frost like early mid-May that could wipe out that entire crop. So it's where frost protection has become more and more of a need for resiliency.
some changes to track 4 for round 10, clarifying that agroforestry is not eligible under track 4, that should be applied for under track 3, because track 4 is really for tree planting projects on unforested land or forest regeneration projects in existing forests. Track 4 is offered at 100% cost share to emphasize that tree planting is important and to remove that risk associated with this practice many times. And we've tweaked track 4 a bit, offering for tree planting project, offering a separate $2,000 per acre incentive payment that is available. This was offered last round, but it was tied to a per acre planting rate. So we've separated that incentive payment now and then restructured our planting rates. Track 4 projects need to have 500 stems planted, aiming for at least 350 at the end of the contract.
That's per acre, right?
Per acre, and then a reimbursement at cost or using our per acre rates of 3,000 per acre for bare root or 4,500 per acre for containerized stock. So we increased the per acre rates slightly under track 4, separated the incentive payment, and then also are allowing projects to budget at cost. So providing a little more flexibility within track 4 based on some feedback that we received. But the goal for track 4 is really aggressive afforestation for carbon sequestration. So there's high goals for planting success and density. And then we are also including the 25 million trees initiative. That project, track 4 projects should will be encouraged to add their trees to the DEC's 25 million and the state's 25 million tree initiative for planting trees in New York State. So track 4 really has similar technical elements as round 9, so not really changing the whole track, just kind of restructuring how projects can budget, and then it really encouraging that successful planting and density is also important. So species selection can be based on site assessment, planning, and farmer goals. So we don't require certain species, but species diversity is encouraged where it's appropriate. And survivability is really important for track 4 projects. So the goal is really afforestation and carbon sequestration. So there are aggressive goals or requirements for per acre planting rates. Site prep, planting, and post-planting stewardship costs are eligible and an important part of the tree planting projects. Something new being proposed for round 10 is a potential new track 5 for innovative demonstration projects. Pilot innovative demonstration projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions on farms, increase carbon sequestration, and or increase a farm's resiliency to a changing climate. So projects through track 5 should demonstrate effectiveness and measure outcomes. Projects could include multi-track comprehensive projects, projects outside other tracks such as aquaculture, urban ag, and methane management demonstration projects. Some of the tracks are, all of the tracks are highly competitive and have some specific goals. So the point of adding a potential new track would be to provide a pathway within CRF to maybe fund a multi-track project or something that doesn't really fall within the other tracks currently, but does fit within the goals of the CRF program to reduce emissions on farm. So some potential projects could include implementing conservation systems across 2 or more tracks. So a farm that's able to do a cover and flare project, put in a lot of acres of cover crops and take care of some flooding or drought issues. That would be 3 separate applications. If we're able to offer a track 5, they could potentially put in a single application that would span multiple tracks, but 1 farm, but a really holistic, successful project. Other potential projects could pilot methane reductions relating to manure management through spreading activities related to the avoidance of methane production. We just heard a presentation last month that Jenny Whiteman provided, where manure management is really important to the methane emissions on farm, and that spreading activities alone could help a farm avoid methane production. Putting that into more of an actual project that we can pay for the practice and measure that methane avoidance is occurring could be something we could pilot through a track 5 CRF project. Another potential project could look like piloting carbon management practices, enhanced rock weathering, wood harvesting and burial for carbon sequestration, aquaculture practices, and urban ag practices. All of these, although some of them may fit into other tracks, all of the other tracks are very highly competitive right now, so these practices might not fit or really compete well in the current tracks that we have. So this track could provide a pathway for some of those different kinds of projects that still really fit the goals of the overall program.
Jennifer, what's enhanced rock weathering?
Enhanced rock weathering is where rocks are actually spread out onto a field and they actually absorb carbon from the air.
Like rock dust. Yeah, it's a carbon removal practice, and it just really supercharges the soil's ability to absorb carbon, but it's not something that is really being used widely here in this state, so it would meet a definition of an innovative practice system. There's been some piloting of it being done in certain parts of the state, but it was a part of the Climate Smart Commodities programming, as a pilot demonstration before we lost those funds. So it's something that we thought we could at least put up as an example here on an innovative track. Yeah.
I think I picked stones out of my field.
I know, right? You gotta put them back. No, it's not, it's dust. It's like, yeah.
Crushed.
Yeah, it's kind of like, think of it like a soil amendment, like,
some kind of silicate base.
yeah, silicate base,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yep. And that's part of it, is also to do it in a way that, doesn't interfere or interrupt with, the soil processes. I don't know if Joseph Amsely is still on the line, but he could probably do a better job of explaining it than I could.
This is Kitty. I'm here and I'm currently working on a fact sheet about this topic so farmers can understand.
Yeah.
It is being done here and there across the state, mostly offered by carbon marketing businesses, middlemen that are selling credits to some big business somewhere. So it's being offered to farms and they're just saying yes because the payments are big, but there are some negatives about it and I want to just make sure they know about it. So I'm halfway through a fact sheet.
Thank you.
I have a question. It's Maureen. Would that be a practice that could be put in under solar panels?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Scientifically, it would be similarly effective. I don't know if it meets other standards. Soil science wise, yes.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So also for round 10, proposing some revised scoring criteria, changing the categories slightly, Project description, oversight, and work plan will be for 20 points. Budgeting and cost effectiveness has 10 points. Estimated greenhouse gas emission reduction is 5 points, and adaptation, resiliency, and environmental benefits is 15 points. This is still a total of 50 points per reviewer. We have 4 review teams, so it's a total of 200 points that each proposal can receive. We are still offering additional considerations of 5 points for new participants assessed by state committee staff. So this is a difference, looks at the difference between round 9 scoring criteria categories and the changes proposed for round 10. So stretching out the categories slightly and helping to make the criteria more clear and concise. So trying to create clearer connections between the scoring criteria and the application, revising the scoring criteria to be clear and more concise. The revised criteria will help guide updates to the application, which really has already occurred. But that was the order that we kind of did it in this round, is that we updated the scoring criteria, then we revised the application, and then really dove into the RFP, thinking of really backwards from what the reviewer is reading based on what we've set in the scoring criteria. And then how do we help the applicant actually answer that question through the application questions. So facilitating the applicant's description of the project need to the reviewers, their understanding of the project is really was the goal in revising the scoring criteria. Oh, did I go too far? Yes. Okay. So the first category, project description, oversight, and work plan. The criteria are that the project addresses goals of the CRF program, that the project addresses a goal or priority identified in the local AIM strategy or an existing conservation plan, watershed plan, or similar document. This round, we're also discouraging that those additional documents be attached to the application, but really more so identified in the narrative. And that the proposal describes how the proposed practices are appropriate to address the stated resource concerns, issues, or improvements on the farm. The proposed BMPs are clearly described. The scoring criteria revisions also integrate the SW forms more into the scoring criteria, so it's clear where some of these, where our SW forms interplay with the application and the scoring criteria. Proposed equipment and or tools are clearly described and appropriate for the BMPs. Project readiness is addressed. Project description or project describes planning process status and has all or will obtain all necessary permits and approvals for implementation. And work plan clearly describes the tasks and activities required to achieve the objectives in the proposed project narrative, including but not limited to permitting, site planning and preparation, engineering, construction, equipment, installation, and testing. Applicant experience and ability. Applicant has the experience and ability to complete the proposed project. Long-term benefits are addressed. There is a long-term operations and maintenance plan that will be put into place for the BMPs that are implemented. Outreach and education. Does the project describe outreach and education activities in detail? The project will encourage the adoption of additional BMPs in the county beyond what the grant is funding. For example, the SWCD and farm operation provide project as demonstration site for conducting educational programming. So that's the first category. Budgeting and cost effectiveness is the second category for 10 points. Applicants need to fill out the budget worksheet, the SW2, and that it provides clear account of all costs associated with all activities necessary to complete the project. Sufficient matches proposed, costs appear reasonable and allowable, and the budget accounts for unexpected costs. The estimated greenhouse gas emission reduction is for 5 points. Greenhouse gas emission reductions are estimated using the COMET Planner, COMET Farm, or other methodology outlined in the RFP. Proposal describes how project will result in a reduction or avoidance of greenhouse gas emissions compared to existing practices or operations. Project is cost effective relative to greenhouse gas mitigation, demonstrated commitment of producer to utilize low emission carbon sink or renewable energy methods on other areas of the farm. Sorry. The next category is adaptation, resiliency, and environmental benefits for 15 points. Proposal describes risks due to climate change, increased flooding, more frequent short droughts, more severe storms, overall increased precipitation, and extreme temperature fluctuations, and proposes methods of reducing their negative impact on the farm operation and local environment. Proposal describes how the project will increase farm resiliency based on the identified risk due to climate change. Proposal describes how the project will help the farm adapt to climate change based on proposed BMPs being implemented. Environmental co-benefits are identified, such as reduced fertilizer use, water quality protection, water conservation, odor reduction, development of recycled or value-added products, impacts to surrounding communities, etc. Project environmental co-benefits are calculated using available tools. So that is all of the scoring criteria. I'm going to go back up to just the overall table. So we really revised, changed the categories, and then kept some of the criteria that was within the category, but either made it more concise or kind of eliminated any redundancies, just to kind of tighten up and clarify what the program's looking for and what the reviewer should be looking for and what the applicant should be communicating.
And Jennifer, I think you may have already covered this, but this scoring criteria is consistent across all the tracks. It's just that the tracks or the proposals within each track are only going to be scored against each other.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, so this scoring criteria applies to all the projects, all the tracks. How CRF is reviewed is that the projects within the track are reviewed or like looked at against each other. Those are scored against each other. So that, yes, the criteria applies to every project that comes in. So I'm going to skip back ahead. So changes to the application. We've made some changes based on the changes to the scoring criteria, but then specifically we've also added a question to the application asking if project meets priority and aim strategy, really helping to link the local priority to the program and state priority. So each county really, they have their aim strategy that guides their local priorities, and then how does that line up, or how can they utilize that to help show that this project was a local priority. It aligns with program goals, and then it also aligns with state goals for conservation and greenhouse gas mitigation. Which really makes it a strong project that is a local priority and a state priority. Management plans such as the AIM strategic plan, any water management plans, hazard mitigation plans, etc. Encouraging that they just be referenced in the narrative and not provided as attachments, just a minor change. Changes to Round 10 contracts. Round 10 contracts are subject to goals for utilizing minority and women-owned business enterprises, MWBE. Previous rounds of CRF were granted exemption from the goals of MWBE when funding approval was granted by OSC, but Round 10 was not granted this exemption. So we are exploring options for waivers for each of the Round 10 contracts from meeting these goals. About 70 contracts we award per round, so it could potentially slow down contracting process.
Maybe I could just also add, we had categorical or program exemptions for MWBE for many years, and the reason for that is because we've gone through, different exercises to report out that the MWBE contractors on the registered state list are very, very few, right? And even fewer that do a lot of the farm practice systems that are listed in our programs, whether it's Agnon, Point, or CRF. That exemption held for many, many years. There is a new emphasis, not really anything beyond that, we lost that exemption, what was it, last year, I think, and we went through and documented the same, that in the registered list, there's just very few opportunities. So we're transitioning from what would have been an exemption, as Jennifer stated, to essentially doing a round by round waiver. If we have to do a contract waiver for each, that will, as Jennifer said, significantly slow down the process. Districts have enjoyed the exemption in that it made it much, much easier for procurement of contractors, goods and services. And we're not trying to diminish the importance of these goals in any way. Let's just try to be realistic for how we procure and how we actually achieve our program goals, because it can grind things to a halt if we are unable to at least secure waivers for this. So stay tuned, but a lot of the pressure, a lot of the onus is going to be on our program managers working with our fiscal office, who coordinates the MWBE procurement process.
So that's just more for your information and awareness. Council review. So once the state committee approves an RFP to move forward, we work with council to make any legal changes or based on their legal guidance. And this round, we're specifically going to be reviewing some language regarding conflict of interest, and then reviewing language regarding county board resolutions and guidance for what needs to be included on the resolution. So in summary, for round 10, we are looking at a budget minimum of 16.8 million utilizing just the EPF funding, potential maximum funding amount of 26.8 million utilizing the EPF plus the Sustainable Futures Fund. That would be pending approval to utilize the Sustainable Futures Fund. So going through the process to find out what the approval is needed for that. Track 1, revising the title to manure and methane management. Track 2, funding increase for that track so that we can meet the demand. Track 4, tree planting per acre rates have been revised, and you can now either utilize the per acre rates or at cost plus an incentive payment per acre. Potential new track 5 for innovative demonstration projects. The funding for this track is included in the higher overall budget at this time. Scoring criteria revisions have been outlined for track 10, and then contracts may have to meet MWBE goals. So next steps, the SWCC approval of the RFP, and then any final revisions and budget updates as necessary. Then we do an internal council review through July and August and work with the press team to announce round 10 in August, September. Release round 10 RFP in September, and then applications would be due in November. So pending nothing interrupts that schedule. So that's it. So I'll park it on the summary slide if there are any questions or discussion. you'd like to have.
I have a question, Jennifer. This is Kitty. I noticed you're using GWT 100 now in the application instead of GWP 20. Is that kind of an across the state shift? Because I know CLCPA kind of specified GWP 20 in the past. Are we now going to just shift to 100?
Kitty, this is Brian. I can answer that. Yes, in the
Yeah.
changes to the CLCPA that by way of the state budget approval converted our statewide accounting to GWP 100. So that is now the new accounting methodology through the law as the CLCPA was modified, as a part of the budget process. So we had used GWP 20 for CRF to be consistent with the CLCPA, so we're using GWP 100 here to be consistent with the new CLCPA.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kitty.
Jennifer, if there are any other questions, I was wondering if you could just explain a little bit more the thought process between how you break out the funds per track. So I mean, that was like one of your first few slides. Just talk a little bit more about how we decided to kind of break out the funds. Yeah. Right.
This one, yes. So
Yeah.
sorry for my fast slide changes there, but yes. So we set the track amount, kind of looking at last round. Track 2 specifically was very oversubscribed, very competitive. So that track was identified as really needing an increase to meet that demand. All the other tracks have kind of stayed similar from round 9 because the EPF funding was at 16.8 million that we had available. Track 4, in the CRF line item, there's actually a carve or a call out for forest management, carbon sequestration. So that's 500,000. So that's embedded in track 4. So track 4 is 600,000 of EPF funding. But it's really just kind of based on what last round request was. Should we go up, or are we kind of hitting the need based on what we have available? So track 2 was definitely increased. The others are kind of stable, utilizing, staying within what we have. This budget has a potential track 5 at 2 million from the Sustainable Futures Fund. This could be something that we could change if if the state committee has any suggestions for revising the budget. We can absolutely change some of these numbers, but right now the track 5, if approved to move forward with a track 5 as this budget is written, we would utilize funding from the Sustainable Futures Fund if we're granted approval from that fund, and we would put in 2 million for track 5. We could also change the EPF side of things if that track was important to move forward within the 16.8 million.
I think what we heard from districts when we talked about a new track would be only if we received an additional appropriation, additional funding. We didn't know about Sustainable Futures at the time, but this gives us that opportunity should we have it available to us right out of the gate. I'm sorry, I had to take a phone call in the beginning, but describing the Sustainable Futures Fund, this is, I guess, the second round. It did exist last year as well, really to help implement the CLCPA as a whole. This round, though, there was specific language that would allow a portion of it to be utilized for the climate resilient farming program. So there are targets, there's methane targets, there's renewable energy target, like it's a $1 billion fund total. And it says not to exceed 50 million for methane, for waste management, for forestry, which would be shared with DEC, but also to be utilized for the climate resilient farming program. What we don't yet know about is what other requirements exist within this budget language outside of how we normally run the program through the EPF and what that might impact our ability. It looks like it could be a direct drop-in, which is great. And because it's capital funding and not Bond Act funding, and we could utilize funds for soil health practices and other, agronomic type practices that don't have that bondability factor, right? The structural practice and longer term lifespan. So we've reached out. Again, this is just fresh with the budget approval at the end of May. We reached out to determine A, how we go about requesting use of those funds, B, what other requirements there may be, and that also includes reporting. So we're hopeful that, hey, if it's ready, if CRF is ready, that it should be ready to be utilized for round 10, and we shouldn't have to wait for a future round. So, yeah. There's also language in that too that says that it can be utilized for the EPF, which again stands to reason that we'd be able to actually, seamlessly combine them, which would be the best case scenario. Bond Act has its own rules. Clean Water Infrastructure Act had its own rules. But if we can utilize these funds for supplementing the program just like we would with EPF, that would be ideal.
And then we'd be slightly higher than last round. We awarded 25 million in round 9. So if we're able to go out with 26.8 million in round 10, we're still making a program increase.
Yeah, and the $10 million amount that we've got in front of you now is really in efforts to just be conservative with this first year to see, what other draws there may be on that larger pot. And that would also allow us to use it, meter it in over time, instead of all at once.
So because there is pending approval on that, we would certainly come back and provide an update on the status of that funding if we're able to add it in. But today, so I'd be looking for a motion to approve like that range of budget so that we could utilize the EPF funding that we have available and then add on the Sustainable Futures funding if that is able to utilize this round. And then the other changes that were proposed, and then as well as weighing in on track 5.
So do we have a motion for the changes, the track 5 and the range in funding, I guess?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
So we've got a motion by Scott and a second by Maureen. So if there's not any other discussion, Scott?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me.
Great, thank you. So next steps, we will be working with council to have their review of the RFP, make any legal suggestions they advise, and then moving forward with trying to secure the Sustainable Futures funds for a round 10 budget. So,
Did you breathe at all
Okay,
during that
thanks.
presentation? It's really well done.
Thanks.
So much information. Oh my gosh. I have things to look up.
I really appreciated your summary at the end there, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thanks, Kitty. Thanks.
Was that all we need to do? Are we all set or?
We're all set. You just need to adjourn the meeting for us.
Okay, I guess we're adjourned then. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.